Alright, so this is my review of SH MonsterArts Red Eyes Black Dragon. Pretty new release, and it just started shipping to the US. So I got mine from a site called Kappa Hobby. It's a pretty good site. I've ordered a few things from them. It looks like they're pretty quick to get things, and they usually have pretty good prices too. So just a new site I found. I kind of like it. Anyway, let's go straight into the review. I am going to start a little out of order today. I'm just going to go start with the accessories just because I already have them set up. And getting them set up is kind of annoying, so we'll go straight into accessories, and then we'll kind of just go through the rest. Okay, so in terms of accessories, I'll just get right to the point. He doesn't come with a whole lot. Really, it's just kind of like these stand pieces and this kind of flame effect. So just if you want to get a closer look at the flames, I think they did a pretty good job with that. I forgot what the name of the attack was in the show, but I think that looks really nice. Looks really cool with the black. So I think that just looks nice. Nice translucent effects. Looks really nice, actually. So 5 out of 5 there. Now, the stand pieces here, it's pretty self-explanatory. They're just really there to help with the weight on this figure because, you know, he is pretty heavy. They work well. Like, it wasn't a huge ordeal getting him set up, so they do their job pretty well. Just standard Tamashi stand pieces. Nothing really interesting there. These two pieces hold his wings up, one for the flame effect and one for the body. So 5 out of 5 there. You know, Red Eyes doesn't come with a whole lot of accessories, so they gave pretty much what you need. Okay, so now let's just get him off the stand. And very easy to get him on and off. Just pick him up like that. So that's kind of like the setup you're going for. Okay, so let's actually just get a quick measurement on him. Now, it is a bit tricky to get him to stand without the base holding him up. We'll get into that in a second. They made some kind of unfortunate decisions with this one, but let's talk about him. I'll try to get him to stand up as best I can here. Like I said, we'll get into this, but he really doesn't like standing on his own, which is very unfortunate. Yeah, so okay, so just in terms of appeal, I think he looks great. He's got a very nice satin finish going all throughout. And he looks really good. So nice red, metallic red on the eyes. So that looks really nice. The teeth, very well painted, like a steel color. He's got the tongue and everything painted nicely too. He does have shading on him also. So he does have like kind of like red metallic brushing effects on him. And I think they did a much nicer job with the kind of brushwork on this one compared to the Blue Eyes. So it looks very nice. It actually looks like he did in the show. So I think they did a good job there. Would have been nice to see that kind of like brushing effect kind of pop out more in some areas, but no real complaints. So it looks pretty true to the show, and I think they did an excellent job. So he looks great in terms of just overall look. Easily 5 out of 5. Now, in terms of just measurements, let's just get some on him. And, you know, it's kind of tricky measuring like a dragon because, you know, in the show he's generally, or even on the card itself, he's usually hunched over, but I guess real pain kind of getting him to stand. But just get a quick measurement on him, just so you get an idea. So just kind of in this neutral-ish pose. Tell you how tall he is. It's always tricky measuring dragons, but say like just standing in this kind of position, he's like around 6.5 to the top of his skull, not including the horns. Like 6.5 inches standing upright. In terms of just a side length, and I'll just hold him like this, so you get a idea of how long he is, because we're talking about a serpent here, dragon. So from tip of his tail, actually let me just get his wing up, so that's easier to measure. From tip of his tail to his kind of snout, he's got some size on him. He's like 12.5 inches, about, you could say 12 inches. So pretty decent sized figure. And then finally, we'll just weigh him also. Let's Make sure that's zeroed in. 7.6 ounces. So yeah, he's got heft on him. Yeah, so overall appeal, definitely 5 out of 5. He doesn't feel cheap quality in the slightest. He feels very good in the hand. 5 out of 5 there. So let's go into articulation, and this is where we have some issues to talk through. But let's just go through his articulation first, and we'll get into those. So he does have that kind of like the nice kind of segmented articulation you'd expect with MonsterArts. So we'll just start with that. So segmented ball joints here. Be gentle with them, but they work, and they work well. So you can see he's really craning his neck down. That looks very nice. Tamashi's really got to iron out like the stiffness on their joints. Like his head is very tight. That first ball joint is very tight, on mine at least. So, you know, go easy on these figures because Tamashi still doesn't get it right with articulation. You can hear that horrible squeak. Very unpleasant. It seems like they're slipping into some bad habits. Unfortunate, but that is something to be aware of. Arms, these are on a ball swivel. Very smooth. A single jointed elbow and a ball swivel on the wrist. Nothing new there. It's a standard. And he does have a ball joint in the chest. Kind of hard to get it to work, just given like the kind of sculpt and all the plates on this figure. So no real movement out of that. But there is something in there. Can't use it a whole lot. Right there. That's where the joint is. And you can swivel a little bit, but not a whole lot. But you do get a swivel there. And yeah, so not a whole lot of movement there, but you don't really need it. Now, this is where it's unfortunate. So compared to the Blue Eyes White Dragon, I don't know why they did this. They used a horrible kind of ball swivel here, and in a thigh piece, like when you're connecting to the hip, that's probably one of the worst joints to use. A ball swivel is just terrible here. This is where you got to worry about, like, let's say you just want to bring his leg in. No, because it's not at the right angle. So that's very unpleasant to deal with. And I have the Blue Eyes figure here also. This, they're using their brain. They just put a simple, good old-fashioned round ball joint in here. And you see how that's just a breeze to articulate. And we'll get into this sagginess later, like I just caught him, but the Blue Eyes is so much more pleasant to deal with. He stands upright. It's got the nice ball joints in the hips, which do wonders for him. So, especially on a dragon, that's just appreciated because less hassle articulating. So, back to the red eyes, and terrible choice there. Not sure why they did that. Very poor choice there. You do get a swivel on the knees. You get this kind of like awkward knee joint. It works though. Looks a little awkward, and be careful because you get to cinch it in like that. Now here on the ankle, you just have an old-fashioned ball joint, and it works so well. So for these MonsterArts figures, just go with the ball joints. They don't need the craziest articulation or extended range. You don't need the swivel. Like, you don't need to put a Red Eyes Black Dragon in like a deep stance or doing karate kicks. So this is just like a hassle to deal with because you always have to line them up. And if you torque on it too hard at the wrong angle, it's going to snap. Swivel on the toes, toe hinge there. Now, something very annoying they did, and it's just, this is another huge kind of sticking point for me, is this kind of hind claw. He can't stand at all on his own, or like it's just very difficult because the sharp claw is just digging into the floor, and you can't balance him. And very, very kind of loose joint here. Like it's not loose. It can't support his weight. Now, you didn't have this problem with the Blue Eyes, but he just buckles at the knee like that. You see that? Because he can't support that weight. Unless you get him in like a very upright, unnatural position, like that, he's not going to stand on his own. He needs the base. Now, if you compare that to the Blue Eyes, They really did kind of slip up on the QC and just like overall designing here. The blue eyes is just so stable. And you see how he's slouched over like a dragon should be. He could handle that without the stand. Flat feet. Come on, like use your head. Why would you hook a claw down like that? It's just not going to work. And sorry if I'm sounding pissed. It's because I am. Like, these aren't cheap. And I think as adults, you know, we have a right to be pissed if we spend this much money on something that's just crappy. So it's very unfortunate because the figure looks great. But he can't stand for shit. And it's unfortunate. So, all right. So I'm actually just going to splice this part in. Now, to be fair to the figure, you can get him to stand, but you kind of have to set him up with like a tripod type thing. He is more finicky than the blue eyes for sure, but you can get him to stand comfortably, but just use the tail as a tripod. So it is doable. And I'm still leaving his articulation at a 3, just because, yeah, just the joint tension was very inconsistent. I actually had to take him apart, just put a little sewing oil and things like that. So, you know, that was pretty difficult. I strongly recommend you try to avoid taking him apart. I always just do it just because I want to see what's going on underneath. Very difficult to put back together. So joint tension is definitely an issue on this one. And I've seen other reviews where they have very loose legs. So all over the place, really. So that's not the best. And I think I might have lucked out a little bit because mine seems okay now, only after I kind of took him apart and then put him back together with just heat and oil. So he seems more tolerable now. But this hip joint is just terrible. The swivel was a very bad design choice. Same thing with that hooked claw on the feet. Still a big, big issue. This is really the only pose that he could stand in. So he's not really getting a pass just because he could stand here, because the blue eyes could stand like this and he could stand leaning forward, craning his neck. The red eyes can't. Like, he needs the tail to stand. And if you saw the blue eyes, he could stand without using the tail as a tripod. So this is a step back in articulation for sure. But yeah, just to be fully transparent here, yeah, you can get him to stand. If you're interested, yeah, this is kind of a setup you want to go for. Just use his tail like a tripod, get him squatting real deep, and you could do it. Getting into the rest of the articulation. Wings are just on a standard hinge. Ball swivel. Here, yeah, for a wing, that's fine. Here is much nicer than down in the thigh area. Do get another kind of hinge here, ball hinge. These are just ball joints, good old-fashioned ball joints, kind of like these secondary wing pieces. But the wings are pretty good. I have no complaints there. So overall articulation is going to get a 3 out of 5. So I'm going a little hard on it because he can't stand. That's a huge negative. I don't think there should be a figure in existence that can't stand on its own. If you need a stand for a 1/12 figure, or this isn't 1/12, but any figure, I consider that like a failure. Like, he really can't. Like, his knees are just buckling. Very unfortunate because it's a very cool figure. So 3 out of 5 there. Very disappointing. So let's talk about overall value. Overall value, now it does look great. So I did get him for 120 bucks. Not the cheapest. MonsterArts aren't cheap. I'm going to change my rating a bit. I'm going to give him a 4.2. So it's not the worst figure in the world, not by a long shot. So for 120 bucks, I do not want to see flippity, kind of floppity joints buckling in like that. That's probably the most annoying thing on this figure. The hooking claw, that hind claw, they could have sculpted that so it's out of the way. Like, that's just stupidity. Unfortunate, because MonsterArts is an expensive line, and it's notorious for QC issues, so they really need to get their shit together. Let's go through the final rating. His final rating, using my weighted average, is going to be a 4.08. Very unfortunate, because I was expecting a lot more. I was excited for this line, especially after the blue eyes. The blue eyes is a great figure. I have a review up for that too, if you want to take a look at that. If you're interested in picking him up, he's still in stock at Kappa Hobby. I think that's a pretty decent price that I saw there. Other sites charge more. I think Kappa Hobby is a pretty good bet if you want to pick him up. And you could always try the Japanese sites. Those will probably be cheaper, but not by much. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. And I will end this video, just a little quick comparison with the vastly superior Blue Eyes figure. And I guess even in the show, Blue Eyes is superior, so not surprised. But it is unfortunate because they look great together. I just wish I could have them standing next to each other without the Red Eyes standing upright like a freaking peacock. Yeah, so with that, that's going to end this review. And if you have any questions, definitely let me know. Thanks for watching, and take care.